All right. In this video, I'm going to show you how to lay out a common rafter. We'll get to hips later. So on a common rafter, one of the couple of things that we've got to do is we've got to know what our span is. So I'm going to just kind of work through this with us. So that we got a tiny little house. I've probably done this in class, showed you this in class already. This video is if you happen to miss class or just can't remember. The span, which is the width of the house, we're just going to say that the span, some of these dog houses that we work on over here are 32 inches. So we're going to work on a 32-inch span. All right. We've got to adjust that span for the ridge board. So I call it the adjusted span. All right. Now I can do this in my head, but if you need to, you can use the calculator that I got you. One of the construction calculators. You do 32 minus 1 inch 1/2, and that is the thickness of our ridge board. All 2x material. Our ridge board is typically going to be anywhere in the neighborhood of a 2x6, 2x8, 2x10, but they're all 1.5 inches thick. So 32 minus 1.5 inches, 32 minus an inch will be 31, minus another half will be 30.5. All right. Then we got the effective run. Our effective run is 30.5, which is from our adjusted span. And we divide that by 2. 30.5 divided by 2 would be, and I can do this in my head again, half of 30 is 15. Half of a half is a quarter, so that'd be 15.25. I'm gonna get a construction calculator real quick. And on my construction calculator, I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll try to put this in. But I can put 15-inch 1/4, and I can store that as my run, okay? So 15-inch 1/4, store that as my run. And you can see up here in the top left-hand corner, it's stored as the run, all right? And then my pitch. Now the pitch is typically gonna be on your floor plans, but in this case, we're gonna make our pitch up. We're gonna call it an 8-inch pitch. So my pitch, I like to write all this down, 8-inch pitch. So in my calculator, with the run, don't hit clear or anything, okay? Hit 8-inch, make sure you hit inch, then hit pitch. Now to get the rafter length, we just gotta tell the calculator that it's our diagonal. So it's basically kind of somewhat doing the Pythagorean theorem for us. So the diagonal button is right beside of the run button, and we press diagonal, we get 18 5/16. So my rafter length, I just abbreviate that as RL. Rafter length is 18 5/16. We can set that to the side. Our framing square. All right, this is the blade, this is the tongue. The blade is 24 inches, the tongue is 16 inches. All right, the blade down here, the long part is always gonna be set, for a common rafter, is always gonna be set on 12. For a hip rafter, you set this on 17. All right, so if it was a hip, you move it down to 17, but hip rafters are a total different thing. And the side of the stair gauge closest to the corner, all right, the side of the stair gauge closest to the corner is what's set on 12. That's what's set on my measurement. All right, and then I'm gonna set this side on 8. This is my pitch. So I'm setting my pitch on my rafter. So I got 12, I've got 8. I've got the tongue on my left, I got the blade on my right. The point is towards me. And yet again, the edge of the stair gauge closest to the corner is what's set on 8. All right. And so I always work left to right, just like I read. And for me, that just makes sense because we read that way. You get in the habit of doing the same thing all the time. It makes life a little bit easier. So I am going to mark, okay? I'm going to mark to the corner. This just saves us wood, okay? So that right there is my plumb cut at my ridge board, and that will get cut off, and that will go against this will go against my ridge board. So I call this the ridge cut. And it's helpful sometimes if you label some of this stuff. My rafter length, the next thing you need is a tape measure. You're gonna measure off of that corner, measure all the way to the top edge of your board. And we got 18 5/16. Put mark at 18 5/16. And now we need our square again. That was like that. This is gonna slide down just like this. gonna mark that there. So right now we got two parallel lines that are at, so basically we've got a parallelogram. Now we want to take our framing square and rotate it 180 degrees, all right? So now my blade is on my left. I'm going to hook my stair gauges now on the bottom edge of the board, the side closest to me, all right? The bottom edge of my board closest to me. This is what we call the seat cut for the bird's mouth, the seat cut for the bird's mouth. This is set on 12. The seat cut is gonna go on your double top plate. Your double top plate is gonna be 3.5 inches, okay? And if you've got sheeting on it, we put 1/2 inch sheeting on our walls. So a double top plate with 1/2 inch sheeting, 3.5 plus 1/2 is 4, okay? So 12, this is on 12, minus 4 is 8. So we're gonna set, I'm gonna slide 8, right here's 8 at my finger, in line with this line here, okay? With my rafter length line. And I'm gonna mark my seat cut there, okay? So I'm gonna put 8 in line with this line, mark that, and that's 12 minus 4. So that's always either gonna be one of two numbers, all right? It's gonna be 8 or 8.5, all right? It's gonna be 8 or 8.5, one of those. And if you wanted to do 8.5, you'd pull it back to here. So if your walls didn't have sheeting on them, you'd pull it back to 8.5. If your walls have sheeting on them, you put it on 8. Most people have sheeting on their walls beforehand. The next thing that I need is my overhang. Now, your overhang will be indicated on your plans, but for a dog house, I get to make this part up. But I need something that is proportional to what I've got. So we're gonna say that a 4-inch overhang, all right? If I start at my corner here and go down until I find 4, I slide 4, okay? So corner to 4, put 4 in line with that line. So right there's 4 in line with this line, mark the back side of my square. All right, there's my overhang. Now a 4-inch overhang is different on a diagonal than it is like this. So if I measure it like this, it's 4 3/4. But on a diagonal like this, it's 4. So we want to do it on the diagonal. Last but not least, all we've got to do is a double bird's mouth. I put an X there to know that we cut that out. This is the square cut, all right? So this is a plumb cut for a rafter tail. This would be the square cut for the rafter tail, which we call a combination, all right? We do a combination cut. I just slide this down just like I did this bird's mouth, all right? I'm gonna put 8 in line with this line, my back side of my tail cut, and mark another bird's mouth. So basically I got 2 bird's mouths. I would end up cutting on the back side of this line, cut out this triangle, all right? So this is my bird's mouth. This is the seat cut. This is the square cut. And this is my plumb cut. And I like to label all this that way. And once you get one of these, as long as you cut this one out perfect, you can use it as a pattern, all right? If you cut this one out right, you can use it as a pattern for all of your other ones. Now you need to use the same one for your pattern every time you cut it out. If you keep using the one that you just cut out, like so if I use this one and cut out a new one, if I use that new one as my pattern, they're gonna be off ever so slightly.